Have you ever wondered if trees can talk or even sleep? Beneath the soil, they whisper through a hidden network, sharing food and warnings. At night, their branches gently lower, as if resting, their own quiet kind of sleep. And every breath you take begins with them, the ancient giants that make our air, our rain, and our world alive. So, take a slow breath and listen to the secret life of trees. For most of us, trees are just there, background to our busy days. We pass them on the way to work or see them from our windows. But trees are far more than green shapes standing in the wind. They are ancient, living beings, each one older, wiser, and more patient than we can imagine. If these relaxing stories spark your curiosity or help you rest, don't forget to like and subscribe to be part of our nightly journeys. You can also leave a comment below. It's a simple way of helping other curious minds find this space too. In tonight's journey, we'll step quietly into the world of trees. We'll wander beneath canopies that have stood for thousands of years. We'll travel beneath the soil, where invisible threads connect every tree to its neighbors, a living network older than any internet we've built. We'll listen to the forest speak in ways too slow for our ears, but perfectly in tune with time itself. So, settle in. Let your thoughts slow down, like falling leaves drifting through air. Let your breath match the rhythm of the forest. And as the night deepens, remember, the trees are awake, listening, breathing, and maybe whispering to one another just below your feet. If a tree can talk without a mouth, how does it speak? Beneath the surface of every forest lies another world. It's a world without light, without wind, without sound. A world where roots twist and curl through the dark, where insects dig tiny tunnels, and where secrets are carried not by air, but by earth itself. Most of us think of trees as solitary beings, tall, proud, standing alone. But under the soil, their roots are touching, intertwining, reaching toward each other. And what they create together is extraordinary. It's sometimes called the wood wide web, a network of underground threads that connects trees to one another, a hidden communication system made not of wires, but of living fungi. Imagine this. Beneath the roots of a forest, billions of tiny filaments stretch through the soil, thinner than a strand of hair. They belong to fungi, and they weave themselves around tree roots in a partnership so old it began before humans existed. The trees give the fungi sugar, food made through photosynthesis in their leaves, and in return, the fungi bring them water and minerals from deep in the ground. But that's only the beginning. These filaments, called mycorrhizae, connect tree roots together, forming a vast underground web that allows trees to share more than just nutrients. They can share information. They can warn one another of danger. They can even help each other grow. You might picture a forest as a group of silent strangers, standing side by side. But in truth, it's more like a community, a neighborhood that never sleeps. And the roots are the roads, the fungi are the messengers, and the messages are made of chemistry. When one tree is attacked by insects, for example, it can send out warning signals through its roots and the fungal network. Nearby trees receive those signals, and they respond by changing the chemicals in their leaves, making them bitter or toxic to the insects before they arrive. It's a kind of early warning system, quietly pulsing through the ground. Scientists have tested this idea for decades. One of the first to truly map it was Dr. Suzanne Simard, a forest ecologist from Canada. She grew young trees in a lab and traced how carbon, the building block of sugar, moved from one tree to another through this underground fungal web. What she found was remarkable. When one tree had plenty of light and made extra sugar, it sent some to its shaded neighbors. And when one tree was struggling, others seemed to share their resources to keep it alive. It was as if the forest itself had compassion. Of course, trees don't have minds or emotions in the human sense. But through millions of years of evolution, they've developed something just as beautiful, a system where cooperation keeps the whole forest alive. If you walk through a forest, you might notice that it feels balanced. No single tree takes everything. No single tree grows endlessly while others starve. It's because the trees are sharing, constantly adjusting, constantly communicating beneath your feet. The soil you step on is alive with messages. Each particle of dirt holds traces of chemicals and signals that tell one root where another has been. The roots grow around stones, through tiny pockets of air, reaching out like explorers, not randomly, but with direction. It's as if the earth itself guides them, or maybe they guide each other. In a sense, forests think slowly. They respond to changes, to drought, to shade, to the birth and death of their neighbors. Every movement, every signal takes time, sometimes hours, sometimes days, but together they form a steady rhythm of life, a rhythm that hums beneath the surface, even when the forest above seems quiet. Imagine a tall oak tree. Its roots spread wide, touching the roots of others, a maple here, a birch there, each one connected through the fine lace of fungal threads. When the oak has more sugar than it needs, some of it flows outward into the web toward others. It doesn't decide the way humans do. It simply follows a rule written in its biology. Share when you can, receive when you must. It's a quiet balance, a system that ensures not just survival, but harmony. And this harmony is not limited to one species. In a mixed forest, a pine can share with a fir with a birch. Each species brings something unique, different kinds of nutrients, different timing, different strengths. Together, they create a living mosaic of life, where every part supports the whole. Sometimes, scientists call the biggest, oldest trees mother trees. These elders stand at the center of the forest network, connected to hundreds of smaller trees through their roots. They send out nutrients, signals, even life-giving carbon to the young seedlings growing in their shade. It's as though they know, in their quiet way, that without the next generation the forest will fade. When a mother tree is cut down, the network weakens. The flow of carbon and nutrients slows. The young trees struggle, but sometimes, before dying, a mother tree releases a final burst of resources into the soil, a gift of sugar and carbon, passed on through the web to help others grow. It's one of nature's quiet acts of generosity. If you think about it, the entire forest behaves almost like one giant organism. Each tree a cell, each fungal thread a nerve fiber, carrying messages from one part to another. When drought hits, the forest shifts. When light changes, the forest adjusts. Everything responds as one, and yet no one is in charge. There's no leader, no center, no brain, only connection, only communication, only balance. It's humbling to realize that these slow, silent beings have been cooperating for millions of years, long before we humans learned to form communities of our own. Perhaps that's why walking in a forest feels peaceful. On some level, we're stepping into a place that understands balance better than we do. Now, picture this in your mind. Raindrops falling on leaves, dripping down through branches, soaking into the soil. Each drop joins the roots below, carrying nutrients deeper into the earth. Fungi stretch toward the moisture, absorbing it, sending it through their web to trees that need it most. It's teamwork at its purest form, invisible, patient, constant. There's a strange beauty in knowing that even competition in a forest is never cruel. When one tree grows taller, it shades another. But that same tree might one day feed its neighbor through the underground web. Even decay becomes a gift. A fallen tree becomes food for fungi, which feed the living roots nearby. Nothing is wasted. Nothing truly ends. Some scientists call this the intelligence of ecosystems. Not intelligence like ours, with thoughts or plans, but a kind of deep, adaptive wisdom, a way of responding, of learning, of surviving together. It's easy to overlook that when you see only the trunks and leaves above. But if you could see beneath the soil, if you could walk through the glowing threads of fungi, the pulsing flow of nutrients, it would look like a galaxy under your feet. Stars of light connecting every root, every leaf, every being in the forest. The Wood Wide Web is not a myth or a metaphor. It's a scientific reality. It's been measured, traced, and mapped. It shows us that even the slowest forms of life can have networks more advanced than any human invention. Think about that. The internet we built with wires and satellites is only decades old. The forest's internet, this web of living connection, has been here for hundreds of millions of years. It doesn't need Wi-Fi. It doesn't need electricity. It runs on sunlight, rain, and trust. And maybe that's why it works so well. When we step into a forest, we step into that network, even if we don't feel it. The air, the soil, the roots, everything is part of a system that breathes together. Each step you take presses lightly on that hidden web, and in that moment, you're connected too. Somewhere beneath you, a message travels from one root to another, a quiet pulse of chemistry, a ripple of life. You'll never hear it. But it's there, moving slowly through the dark earth, keeping the forest alive, and perhaps, in a way, it keeps us alive too. Because every tree that shares its strength helps make the air we breathe. Every root that finds water helps create the rain that falls again. Every part of the forest is in conversation with every other, and somehow we're part of that story. Next time you walk in a park or pass a tree on the street, think about what's happening beneath your feet. Invisible threads reaching out, messages passing from one life to another in silence and patience. The forest is never truly still. It's always speaking, we just have to slow down enough to listen. And somewhere deep underground, a root touches another root. A tree shares a little sugar with a stranger, and the story of life continues, slowly, beautifully, endlessly. If trees can share food and warnings, if they can keep each other alive, what else might they remember? Beautiful. When we think of family, we often imagine laughter around a table, gentle conversations, small acts of care that tie generations together. But what if I told you that forests have families too, not in the way we do, with faces and voices, but in their own slow, silent and nurturing way? Deep within the soil, beyond the reach of sunlight, trees are not alone. They're connected to one another, mothers, children, cousins, all woven into the same living network. And like any close family, they share, they protect, and they teach. The forest, in its quiet way, has mothers. Scientists call them mother trees. They are the oldest, tallest, and most deeply rooted beings in the forest, the wise elders standing at the center of it all. Their roots spread far and wide, connected to hundreds of other trees through that invisible web of fungi we met earlier. They've survived storms, fires, droughts, and winters, so long that their bark holds the story of centuries. But what makes a mother tree truly special is her generosity. When a new seedling is born, a tiny green shoot pushing through the soil, it lives in shade. Sunlight barely reaches it. Alone, it wouldn't survive. But its mother is watching. Through her roots, she senses the young one's presence, perhaps through the change in soil chemistry or through the gentle touch of roots meeting underground. And then, something amazing happens. The mother tree sends food. She sends carbon, the sugar she made from sunlight, down through her roots, through the fungal threads, directly into the seedling. It's a transfer of life, molecule by molecule, slow but steady. The young tree drinks it in and slowly grows stronger. This isn't fantasy. It's a proven fact of nature, observed in experiments and in wild forests. Dr. Suzanne Simard, the same ecologist who discovered tree communication, found that large, older trees, especially those in shady, dense forests, feed their young through these underground networks. She called it parental support, and in the simplest terms, that's exactly what it is. A mother tree helps her children grow. Even when she's dying, she doesn't stop giving. In her final years, she sends out a last surge of carbon, one last act of generosity to feed the next generation. It's a kind of inheritance, not in words or will, but in energy and life. And in that moment, the line between life and death blurs into something eternal. Because as one tree falls, dozens more begin to rise. You might wonder, how can a tree know which seedlings are her own? Scientists did too. So they tested it. They planted young trees, some from the same parent, some unrelated, and traced how nutrients moved between them. What they found was astonishing. The parent tree sent more carbon to her own seedlings than to strangers. It was as if she recognized them, not by sight or sound, but by chemistry, by something written in the scent of their roots. It's an ancient wisdom, one that doesn't need words or thought. Just instinct, just connection. Forests, it seems, are not just collections of trees. They're families, generations, living side by side, roots intertwined like hands. And just as families share love and guidance, forests share memory too. A mother tree that has endured drought or disease can pass that strength on to her offspring. Her roots and fungal partners hold chemical traces of those struggles. Small changes in the DNA that help the next generation survive the same trials. It's a living record, passed silently through the soil. There's a quiet tenderness in that. A slow, enduring love that doesn't rush or demand anything in return. Just the steady flow of life from one to another. If you could see it happen, it would look like soft golden light traveling underground from one being to the next, a heartbeat made of sunlight and patience. But the forest isn't always peaceful. There are moments of hardship too. When lightning strikes or drought comes, mother trees can't always save their young, yet even then, their roots do something extraordinary. When a tree is dying, truly dying, it sometimes sends a final burst of resources to the seedlings around it. It redirects everything it has left: sugars, nitrogen, minerals. All of it flows outward, like a farewell gift to the forest it helped raise. And when it finally falls, its body becomes nourishment. The wood slowly softens, covered by moss and fungi, and over years turns back into earth. Out of that earth, new roots find food, new shoots rise. The old tree story doesn't end, it just changes form. The fallen become the soil that feeds the living. It's not death in the way we think of it. It's renewal. If you walk in an old forest, you'll see this cycle everywhere. Massive logs lying on the ground, soft with age, sprouting tiny new trees on top of them. They're called nurse logs, the cradles of the next generation. In their decay, they give life again. There's something profoundly comforting about that idea, that even in their silence, trees never stop giving. They feed, they teach, they protect, and in the end, they become the soil that allows others to begin. In many cultures, people have long sensed this wisdom. Indigenous communities often describe forests as families, each tree with a role, a purpose, a story. Science has only recently caught up to that truth, but nature has known it all along. And while we humans move quickly, measuring time in minutes and years, the forest moves in generations. It's a different kind of rhythm, a patience that can only come from those who have seen centuries pass like seasons. Think of a towering redwood, over 100 meters tall, rooted for thousands of years. It may have grown beside its ancestors, watched them fall, and stood beside their children. It carries their memory in its rings and its roots. The redwood's family tree is not a diagram, it's a forest. And even far from the great old forests, this quiet kinship continues. In city parks and gardens, roots still reach for one another. Fungi still carry messages. Even the smallest patch of soil holds traces of that ancient network. The forest never truly disappears, it just changes shape. In this, trees might know something we've forgotten. They understand that strength doesn't come from standing alone. It comes from standing together, from reaching out beneath the surface, unseen but unbroken. Maybe that's why forests feel so healing to us. When we walk among them, our bodies relax, our breathing slows, our minds quiet. It's as if the calm we feel isn't just psychological, it's something older, something passed to us through the air we share. Because the same oxygen that fills our lungs began as sunlight caught in a leaf, the breath of a tree. And the trees that breathe that air are, in a way, our family too. They've been here long before us, shaping the air, the water, the soil, creating the very conditions that made human life possible. We live in their legacy. And though we forget it sometimes, we still depend on them, just as seedlings depend on their mother trees. We may not see their care, but we feel it with every breath. If trees can recognize their own, if they can nurture their young and share their strength, it makes you wonder what other wisdom lies in their roots. What else do they carry, hidden deep in their hearts of wood and soil? Perhaps the answer lies not in how they live, but in how they endure. Some trees live for thousands of years, quietly witnessing history unfold. Their patience is unmatched, their memories recorded in silence. And as the forest families stretch across time, one question remains softly in the air. How do the oldest trees remember the world as it was long ago? In the stillness of dawn, before the first light touches the earth, some trees have already lived through ages beyond our imagination. They stand quietly, keeping watch as the world changes around them, the last witnesses to ancient skies, long before cities, long before written words. They are called timekeepers. Their roots hold the stories of centuries, even millennia. While we measure our lives in decades, these trees measure in epochs. One of the oldest known beings on Earth is a tree named Methuselah, a Great Basin bristlecone pine living high in the White Mountains of California. It is more than 4,800 years old. That means it was already growing when the pyramids of Egypt were being built. While empires rose and fell, while civilizations were born and forgotten, Methuselah simply stood there, quietly stretching toward the sky, one ring at a time. Its bark is twisted, its branches weathered by cold winds and thin air. To some, it looks half dead, a gnarled relic clinging to life in a harsh mountain desert. But inside, its heartwood still pulses with slow, steady life. It doesn't rush. It doesn't change. It just endures. And that's the secret of these ancient beings: endurance. Where we chase time, they become it. Every ring within their trunk is a memory, a diary written in wood. If you were to look closely at a cross-section of a tree, you'd see thousands of rings, some thick, some thin. Each one tells a story. A thick ring means a good year, plenty of rain, sunlight, and growth. A thin one means struggle, drought, frost, or shadow. Together, these rings form a timeline that no historian could ever match. By studying them, scientists can learn what the Earth's climate was like thousands of years ago. They can trace volcanic eruptions, ancient droughts, even patterns in the stars. Because the sky, too, leaves its fingerprint in the wood, through radiation, through air, through light. In that sense, trees are not just alive, they are libraries of the planet's memory. Each trunk holds chapters of wind and sun and time itself. And yet, there's something more spiritual about it too. Standing before an ancient tree feels like meeting an elder, one that doesn't speak in words, but in presence. You can almost feel its patience. It's calm. It has seen storms, fires, snowfalls, and still it remains, rooted and unafraid. Across the world, other timekeepers stand watch. In Iran, the cypress of Abarca, believed to be over 4,000 years old, still shades travellers with its wide branches. In Sweden, a spruce called Old Gico grows atop a mountain, its roots over 9,500 years old. That means it sprouted not long after the Ice Age ended. And in the deserts of Namibia, ancient welwitschias, strange, low plants with just 2 long leaves, have lived for nearly 2,000 years, surviving on fog alone. Each of these beings is a monument not of stone, but of life. They are quiet guardians of time. But how do they live so long? How can something so soft, so fragile, outlast mountains of human history? The answer lies in how they live, slowly, deliberately, without waste. Ancient trees grow in harsh places, cold mountains, dry deserts, rocky ground. Where life is difficult, they grow small, steady, and strong. They conserve energy, recycle every bit of it, and adapt. They don't compete, they endure. Their wood hardens, their bark thickens, and their inner systems slow down. It's almost like they've mastered the art of stillness. Instead of rushing through life, they let time flow through them gently. Maybe that's why they survive. Because they don't resist the world, they move with it. If you stand close to one of these elders and place your hand on its trunk, you can feel the faint warmth of life beneath the bark, a quiet pulse, a reminder that this being has outlived empires, languages, and countless generations of humans. And yet it is still growing. There's a lesson there, that strength isn't always loud or visible. Sometimes it's quiet, patient, and rooted. Imagine if you could hear a tree's memories. You might hear the hum of ancient winds, the footsteps of animals long extinct, the distant echo of rivers that no longer flow. You might hear silence too, the kind that only comes with thousands of years of peace. For these timekeepers, every century is just another breath. They don't hurry toward the future or cling to the past. They simply are. In a way, they remind us of what we once were, part of nature's rhythm, not separate from it. Because long before we built clocks to measure time, trees were already keeping it. When you look at an old tree, you're looking at living history, not a symbol but the real thing. Its roots reach into the past, its branches stretch into the present, and its seeds carry the future. It exists across all three, effortlessly. And maybe that's why standing under an old tree feels sacred. It's not just shade we feel, it's time itself brushing gently against our skin. Some cultures believe ancient trees are keepers of souls. Others see them as messengers between the heavens and the earth. Whether you call it spirit or science, the feeling is the same. Awe at something that has seen everything and yet demands nothing. that simply stands breathing quietly with the planet. When you walk away from an ancient tree, you carry a kind of silence with you, a calm that stays even after you've left the forest. Because somewhere deep inside, you know you've touched something eternal. And maybe that's the greatest mystery of all, not how trees live so long, but how they manage to stay so alive inside. Through storms, through fire, through centuries of change, they remain steady, graceful, and kind. They are not just timekeepers. They are reminders that patience is a form of wisdom, and that stillness can be the greatest strength of all. When we think of rain, we often look up, to the clouds, to the sky, to the grey horizon waiting to open. But the truth is, much of rain begins not above us, but below, in the quiet green hearts of forests. Every droplet that falls has a story, and often that story starts inside a tree. Imagine walking through a tropical forest after a warm afternoon rain. The air feels heavy, almost alive. Mist rises from the leaves, wrapping the trees in silver fog. It's easy to believe that the rain is a gift to the forest. But in a beautiful twist of nature, the forest is also the one who calls the rain. Yes, trees make rain, not by magic, but through a slow, breathtaking process that connects air, water, and life. Each leaf, though still and silent, acts like a tiny water pump. During the day, sunlight warms the forest, and the leaves begin to release moisture, invisible water vapor that rises into the sky. This process is called transpiration. You can think of it like gentle breathing. The tree draws water up from the soil through its roots, a long, steady pull that can travel hundreds of feet upward. Then, through thousands of small pores on the leaves, that water is released into the air as vapor. It's so soft, so constant, you can't see it. But together, the forest exhales oceans of water every day. A single large tree can send hundreds of liters of water into the air daily. A whole rainforest can create entire weather systems. That's not just poetic, it's science. When enough trees breathe together, the rising vapor cools and forms clouds. The clouds drift, gather, and finally return that same water as rain, falling back onto the same roots that sent it upward. It's a perfect circle, a rhythm older than human memory. In this way, a forest is more than just a group of trees. It's a living fountain, one that pulls water from the ground, releases it into the air, and then calls it home again. This is why forests are sometimes called flying rivers. Their rivers don't flow through valleys, they flow through the sky. Let's visit one of the most powerful examples of this. The Amazon rainforest, often called the lungs of the earth. When it rains in the Amazon, some of that water runs into rivers like the mighty Amazon River itself. But much of it stays in the system. The trees absorb it, use it, and breathe it out again. The vapor rises, cools, and rains again, sometimes 5 or 6 times before the water ever reaches the sea. In other words, one drop of rain may fall, rise, and fall again many times, each time thanks to the forest. If you could see it from space, you'd notice the clouds thickening right above the greenest regions. That's not coincidence, it's the trees themselves, shaping the weather. They are rainmakers. Scientists studying this discovered something astonishing. When large areas of forest are cut down, rain begins to disappear, not just over the cleared land, but even hundreds of kilometers away. Without the tree's breath, the sky grows empty. And when forests are restored, the rains often return. It's as if the trees are calling to the sky, a whisper that says, "Come back, we're ready." But how exactly do trees move water so high, sometimes more than 100 meters from soil to canopy? Inside each trunk, millions of microscopic tubes, called xylem vessels, act like straws. Through a mix of suction, pressure, and chemistry, water moves upward in a continuous column. When sunlight warms the leaves, it draws the water higher, like heat drawing a breath. It's one of nature's quiet miracles. No pumps, no machines, only physics and patience. And while the water moves, it carries tiny nutrients from the soil to the top. When the leaf releases vapor, it leaves behind salts and minerals that feed the tree's tissues. So, every breath the tree takes not only gives life to the forest around it, it also nourishes itself. Now, imagine the forest at dawn. The air is cool. The trees have been drinking all night, their roots heavy with water. Then, as sunlight touches the canopy, something almost invisible begins. A faint mist rising upward, twisting softly in the golden light. That's the forest exhaling. Slowly, gently, the vapor gathers above the treetops, forming ribbons of clouds that stretch into the sky. If you watch closely, you might even see tiny droplets sparkle like dust. They drift higher, joining others, building a sky full of promise. Hours later, those same droplets will fall again, maybe right there, maybe far away, returning what the trees sent upward. Every rainfall, in a sense, is the forest talking to the sky. In many cultures, this truth was understood long before science gave it names. Ancient people in the Amazon, in Africa, in Asia, they all spoke of the forest as a living being that brings rain. They believed the trees were calling the clouds. And now, modern research agrees they were right. Where forests thrive, rain follows. Where forests vanish, drought begins. It's a balance so delicate and yet so strong that the entire planet's water cycle depends on it. One scientist once called trees the Earth's air conditioners. But that's only half true. They are also its heart, pumping water through invisible veins that connect mountain to ocean. In India, the monsoon winds carry vapor made partly by Himalayan forests. In Africa, trees on the Congo basin send moisture that later falls as rain across the savannas. And even small forests, those near your home, your park, your neighborhood, create tiny clouds of their own. Each one participates in a global dance of water. Now imagine the world without this quiet rhythm. Without trees, the air would dry. Rain would become rare and violent, too much or too little, never steady. Rivers would shrink, soil would harden, and the air would grow still. But with trees, the world breathes evenly. The clouds know where to go. The cycle continues. Even deserts remember, because once many were green, and old roots still sleep beneath the sand, waiting for rain to return. There's something deeply moving about realizing that a tree, something that cannot move or speak, can reach all the way to the clouds. Its roots touch the dark earth, its crown brushes the sky, and between them, life flows endlessly. A perfect bridge between ground and heaven. Perhaps that's why so many myths describe trees as sacred, the axis between worlds. Because even in science, that image remains true. The next time you feel the rain touch your skin, pause for a moment. Remember that what's falling might once have flowed through the heartwood of a distant tree. That drop may have traveled through roots, climbed through bark, and escaped into the sky as the sigh of a leaf. It may have fallen, risen, and fallen again countless times before finding you. Every droplet is a story of return. And when the rain patters softly on your window, maybe it's not just weather. Maybe it's the sound of trees whispering thanks. Because when you listen carefully, the rain and the forest sound almost the same. Gentle, rhythmic, alive. It's the planet breathing in harmony with itself. When forests breathe, clouds listen. When clouds listen, rain falls. And through that endless rhythm, life on Earth continues, quietly, beautifully, without pause. And as night settles and you drift into rest, maybe your own breathing can follow that same ancient pattern, in, out, like the forest, calm and endless. Because somewhere, a leaf is still exhaling, and somewhere, a cloud is forming, waiting to return home. In the heart of every forest, time moves differently. Seasons pass softly. Sunlight filters through leaves that have seen 100 springs. And somewhere deep within, in silence too deep for us to hear, trees are remembering. It's strange to imagine that a being without a brain, without nerves, could have memory. But science has begun to reveal that trees, in their own quiet way, do remember. Not with thoughts, not with images, but through change. Through patterns written in wood, in roots, in chemistry. If you cut across the trunk of an old tree, you see rings, thousands of them. Each ring is a year, a diary page of weather and life. Some are wide and bright, years of rain, warmth, and growth. Others are thin and dark, years of struggle and drought. The tree remembers not by choice, but by nature. Its body keeps a record of everything it has lived through. This is one kind of memory, a physical one. But there's another kind, more mysterious, one that happens inside the tree itself, even while it's alive. Scientists once thought trees simply reacted to the world, no memory, no learning, only response. But that idea began to change. In an experiment, young trees were exposed to a sudden drought. Their leaves drooped, their growth slowed, and they struggled. But when the same drought happened again months later, something remarkable occurred. The trees responded faster. They closed their pores sooner, conserved water better, and survived more easily. It was as if they remembered what had happened before. And even more curious, their offspring, grown from seeds, sometimes showed the same readiness. They too were quicker to protect themselves. The memory of drought had somehow passed from one generation to the next. No thoughts, no minds, just living memory, carried in the language of cells. Inside a tree, countless tiny messengers travel between roots and leaves, signals made of hormones, minerals, and electric pulses. When a tree is wounded or stressed, these messages change. Some move through sap, others through air. If the tree faces drought, or insect attack, or frost, it adjusts its chemistry to adapt and keeps a trace of that experience in its tissues. Later, when the same danger returns, the tree responds more wisely, more calmly, as if saying, "I've seen this before." It's learning, not like we learn, but in its own language of growth and change. Even more astonishing is how memory travels through the forest. When one tree experiences stress, it can send warning signals through underground fungal networks, the same wood-wide web that links roots together. Neighboring trees pick up these messages. Some begin changing their leaf chemistry before the danger even reaches them. If one tree has been attacked by insects, others nearby start producing bitter compounds to make their leaves less tasty. It's not emotion, but it's communication. And through that connection, forests develop a kind of collective memory. The experience of one becomes a lesson for many. Imagine a vast forest where every root, every fungus, every leaf participates in this quiet conversation. Messages flow through soil like whispers through water. One tree remembers a storm, another remembers fire. Together, they adapt, not separately, but as one living memory. In a way, the forest itself remembers. Some researchers even call old mother trees the keepers of these memories. They have the deepest roots and the widest networks. When a young sapling sprouts nearby, the mother tree connects to it underground, sending sugars, nutrients, and signals. She teaches it the patterns of the soil, when water runs low, when light returns, when danger is near. Through these subtle exchanges, the wisdom of centuries passes from one generation to the next. It's not teaching as we know it, but it's guidance. A memory shared through living connection. Trees also remember the rhythm of the seasons. Even when scientists move them indoors, away from sunlight and weather, they continue to change their growth according to spring, summer, and winter, as if their bodies keep time. They know when to rest and when to wake. Some even show signs of remembering exact patterns of light and temperature from years before. The forest is full of memory, not fast, not loud, but deep. It's written in chemistry, carved in bark, stored in roots. It never stops recording. When lightning strikes and burns part of a forest, trees that survive hold the memory within their rings, scars blackened but healed. When a flood passes, roots twist differently to find new stability. When a harsh wind breaks a branch, the next one grows thicker, stronger, wiser. Every mark of survival becomes a line in the story. If you could listen to the wood of an old tree, perhaps it would sound like a slow heartbeat, one that carries centuries of calm endurance. And maybe this is the most beautiful truth. That memory, in trees, is not a burden. It's a song of survival. Humans remember through stories and feelings. Trees remember through growth and renewal. They never cling to the past. They transform it. Every struggle becomes strength. Every storm becomes a pattern. Every scar becomes wisdom. So the next time you stand near an old tree, look closely at its trunk. The rough bark, the twists, the hollow scars, they are not imperfections. They are memories. Proof that this being has seen storms, droughts, lightning, and still chose to keep growing. In that sense, a forest is not silent at all. It is full of quiet wisdom, a library of green that has never forgotten what it took to stay alive. And when the wind blows through the leaves, perhaps that's not just sound. Perhaps it's memory speaking softly, reminding us that life, no matter how slow, always finds a way to continue. Somewhere deep underground, roots touch and share one more story. A story of patience, of survival, of timeless memory. And as night falls, the trees grow still again. Their memories rest in silence, waiting for the next dawn. Because even when the forest sleeps, it remembers. If you walk through an ancient forest, you may notice something strange. Even where a tree has fallen, life still clings to it. The wood is soft with moss. Tiny sprouts rise from what seems like decay. The air smells of age and renewal at the same time. Here, death doesn't mean an ending. It means transformation. The forest never truly dies. It only changes shape. In the cycle of the woods, nothing is wasted. When a great tree falls, its trunk becomes a cradle for new life. Fungi spread their threads through the wood, breaking it down bit by bit. From the softened bark, ferns unfurl, insects nest, and seedlings take root in the fallen body of their ancestor. Scientists call these fallen trunks nurse logs. They are bridges between generations, the old literally becoming the foundation of the new. It is a quiet kind of immortality. But sometimes, the story goes even deeper. In the forests of New Zealand, researchers once found something puzzling. A tree stump, cut down long ago, still alive. It had no leaves, no way to photosynthesize, no reason to live, and yet its wood was moist, its roots pulsing faintly with life. They discovered why. Beneath the soil, that stump was still connected to the roots of its neighbors. The surrounding trees were sending it water and nutrients, keeping it alive. It was as if the forest itself refused to let it die. This kind of shared existence challenges our idea of what life means. We often see trees as individuals, one trunk, one life. But the forest sees differently. Underground, roots and fungi weave a vast network, a living web that connects almost every tree. Through this hidden system, they share resources and even signals. If one tree has extra sugar, it can pass some to its weaker neighbors. If one is injured, others can sense it. Old trees, with deep roots and long memory, often support the young, feeding them through the dark seasons until they are strong enough to stand on their own. It's as if the forest breathes as one. And in that way, even when individual trees fall, the forest remains alive, a continuous being that renews itself endlessly. A pine that decomposes becomes soil. That soil feeds grass. The grass feeds deer. The deer's life nourishes the earth again. Each step, each form, part of the same unbroken circle. In the language of the forest, there is no word for end. Some trees carry this persistence in another way, by cloning themselves. Aspen trees, for instance, grow in vast colonies where every trunk is part of the same root system. In Utah stands one of the most remarkable examples, a forest known as Pando, Latin for eye spread. To the eye, it looks like thousands of separate trees. But underground, they are all one being, one immense organism connected by roots that have lived for nearly 80,000 years. Every time one trunk dies, another rises in its place, born from the same living root. Generations of deer have grazed on its leaves. Fires have swept through, winters have frozen it, yet still it endures. Pando is not a forest of trees, it is a single life, breathing through thousands of trunks. The forest that never dies. Even in smaller ways, this immortality repeats. A fallen leaf returns to the soil. Its minerals rise again through roots, reborn as new leaves. A single drop of rain that nourishes one seedling may later be carried upward into the clouds to fall again in another forest. Nothing is ever truly lost. This is the forest's secret, not permanence, but renewal. It survives by letting go, by changing, by becoming. And in that change, it finds eternity. When night falls in a forest, and the wind quiets, the air hums with slow life. Beneath the soil, unseen, roots continue to move. Cells divide, fungi feed, new life stirs. Even the oldest fallen trunk, now covered in green moss, pulses faintly with warmth. Inside it, billions of tiny lives are at work, returning what was once solid into something fertile, something soft, something ready for growth again. So the forest keeps breathing, day and night, death and birth, decay and renewal, always in balance. If you could listen close enough, you might hear the whisper of that rhythm, a heartbeat made not of sound but of cycles. One that says, I am still here. I have always been here. I will always begin again. The forest that never dies is not a place. It is a way of existing, a wisdom of transformation, shared by everything that grows. And maybe, in its quiet endurance, the forest teaches us something about life itself. That endings are never really endings. That loss is not disappearance. That every fall is only a return to the soil, to the beginning, to the unseen life that waits to rise again. Because deep beneath the roots, even in darkness, life is always listening, always ready to begin once more. At night, the forest changes. The sounds grow softer. The air cools and thickens with the smell of damp earth and pine. The wind moves slowly, brushing through leaves like a whisper too quiet to catch. If you stand under a tree in this stillness and stay long enough to feel the rhythm of its breath, you might notice something remarkable. The branches above you seem to droop just a little, as if the tree is relaxing, as if it is resting, and, in a way, it is. For a long time, people thought trees never truly slept. After all, they have no eyes to close, no heartbeat to slow, no dreams to chase through the dark. But science has shown us something beautiful. Trees, too, have their own kind of rest. In recent years, scientists used lasers to observe trees through the night. They found that many species, birches, maples, and oaks, lower their branches by several centimeters while the sun is gone. When morning light returns, the branches slowly rise again, returning to their daytime position. It's not dramatic. It's gentle, like the slow rise and fall of someone's chest while they sleep. This nightly movement follows a rhythm, the same kind that beats through all living things. It's called the circadian rhythm, a 24-hour internal clock that guides when to wake, when to rest, when to grow. Humans have it. Animals have it. Even flowers and fungi do. And trees, tall and ancient as they are, move to the same silent rhythm of the planet's turning. During the day, trees work. Their leaves open wide to catch the sun, busy with photosynthesis, making food, pulling water, releasing oxygen. It's a steady, quiet labor. But when the light fades and the last gold line of sun slips away, the leaves rest. Their tiny openings close. Water movement slows. The whole system quiets down, like a town closing its shops at dusk. And then, for a few hours, the tree simply is. The reason for the drooping branches is still being studied, but scientists think it has to do with changes in the water pressure inside the tree. During the day, water is pulled upward through the trunk by the force of evaporation from the leaves, a process called transpiration. When night comes and transpiration stops, that tension relaxes. The water settles, and the branches, relieved of their invisible pull, gently lower themselves. It's not a conscious act, of course, but it is a rhythm, a response so natural, so elegant, that it feels almost like sleep. Some researchers even suggest that this nightly pause helps the tree recover, storing energy, repairing tiny cells, preparing for another day of Sunday. Just as our own sleep helps our minds heal and reset. If you've ever walked beneath a tree at midnight, you may have felt that hush, the kind that feels deeper than silence. That's not only the stillness of the world around you, it's the tree itself, calm, resting, breathing slower, waiting for dawn. There is something humbling in that. To think that the giant beside you, older, taller, wiser than you'll ever be, also needs its rest. That even strength takes breaks. Even endurance needs peace. Sometimes the moonlight touches the leaves in such a way that it looks like the tree is glowing. You can almost imagine its slow dreams, of rain, of sunlight, of roots touching deep earth. Dreams that take centuries to unfold. The forest at night is full of these sleeping giants. Each one part of a greater lullaby, a rhythm that hums beneath the stars. Wind sways softly through branches. Owls call once, then fade into the dark. And under it all, the trees drift in their quiet, swaying rest. It makes you wonder, if a tree can rest without eyes or mind, what is rest, really? Maybe it's not just the closing of eyelids, but the permission to stop, to soften, to let the world turn without us for a while. Maybe the forest is showing us how to breathe again. When the night deepens and the air grows cool, the trees stand tall and still, yet inside them, slow movement continues. tiny pulses in the trunk, a silent hum in the roots. Even as they rest, they remain alive, never truly motionless, always listening to the rhythm of Earth itself. And then, somewhere far away, the first line of dawn appears, pale gold breaking through mist. The light touches the highest leaves first, and something inside the trees stirs. Branches lift again, leaves open, water begins to rise. It's as if the forest takes a deep breath in unison, a slow awakening after a long, peaceful night. And when the first light returns, something inside them stirs. A reaching, a longing for the Sunday. Take a deep breath, in and out. The air that fills your lungs has been on a long journey. It may have drifted through the leaves of an oak in a quiet valley. It may have brushed past the crown of a pine high in the mountains. It may have been released just moments ago by a single green leaf turning sunlight into life. Every breath you take is a gift, one that began in the forest. For millions of years, trees have shaped the air we breathe. They pull in carbon dioxide, the gas we exhale, and with the light of the sun, they transform it. In return, they release oxygen, invisible, weightless, and vital. The breath of trees becomes the breath of humans, and the breath of humans returns to feed the trees. It's a perfect exchange, a quiet promise between species. We give, and they give back. Each breath is part of that endless conversation. If you listen closely while walking beneath the canopy, you can almost feel it, the slow rhythm of the forest, breathing in sync with your own. A soft harmony of life and renewal. The leaves shimmer in the breeze, the air feels fresher near the roots, and for a moment, everything feels connected. You, the wind, the earth, and the trees. In that connection lies something deeply human. Because even though we live in cities, drive cars, build walls, and look at screens, we are still creatures of air and soil. We still belong to the breath of the earth. Every inhale brings a whisper of the forest into your body. Molecules that once moved through ancient trees, through jungles and meadows and oceans. Every exhale returns something of you back to the living world. It's easy to forget that. But when we do remember, it changes how we breathe. It turns each breath into a quiet thank you. Thank you to the trees that shade us, to the roots that hold the soil together, to the leaves that shimmer in the morning light and rest under the moon. Thank you for the oxygen, the calm, the beauty, and the reminder that life itself is shared. And perhaps that is the forest's greatest gift, not only the air we breathe, but the sense of belonging it gives us. A reminder that we are never truly separate from nature, no matter how far we wander from the woods. Because with every breath, the forest lives within us. The trees breathe out, we breathe in, and the circle continues, soft, endless, and full of grace. So tonight, as you close your eyes, let your breathing slow. Feel the air moving gently in and out. Imagine the quiet rhythm of a forest under the stars. Branches resting, leaves glistening with moonlight, roots deep in the dark earth. And remember, somewhere, a tree is breathing with you. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with wonder.